main press coordinator for the Coalition of March on the DNC, my partner Fayani.
Fayani Aboma Mijana, F-A-A-Y-A-N-I A-B-O-M-A M-I-J-A-N-A. I use they, them pronouns. I'm here to say that the Black Liberation Movement in the U.S. stands with Palestine and demands an end to all U.S. aid to Israel. We also demand a stop to police crimes and community control of the police now, as well as all the other people's demands raised by our coalition. Right now, there's a horrific genocide of Palestinians taking place that's being aided and abetted by the Democratic Party leadership and its representatives, and Genocide Joe, Killer Kamala Harris, and Baby Killer Blinken. These genocidal politicians would rather that they have their celebratory affair over in the United Center unbothered, despite its funding of the Israeli genocide that's left at least 40,000 Palestinians dead, 2 million displaced, and the entire Gaza Strip reduced to rubble. The existence of this coalition, of this march, is a testament to how the very working and oppressed people these Democrats claim to represent will no longer stand for the currently existing order of our tax dollars being sent to fund a genocide. There is no lesser of two evils when the so-called lesser is aiding and abetting a genocide. And then recall that the Democrats sailed into office in 2020 from the George Floyd uprisings, as working and oppressed people, and specifically black people, turned out historic numbers in rejection of Trump. And yet Biden and Kamala's promises of passing the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act never materialized. In fact, they only sent more money to police around the country to further brutalize us, while at the same time in 2023, police in the U.S. killed more people than ever. Say her name, Sonia Massey.
Sonia Massey!
Sonia Massey!
Sonia Massey!
Our experience tells us that if anything were to change in this country, the source of it won't be from within the Democratic Party. It won't be because they suddenly had a conscience. It would be because groups like the U.S. Palestinian Community Network, the Coalition for Justice in Palestine, the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, the Legalization for All Network, Voces, Students for a Democratic Society, and many more, built a mass movement so powerful that it forced these genocidal politicians to yield to our demands. And if they don't, we'll take power ourselves.
That's it.
This march is one step of many in building our movement. All power to the people.
All power to the people!
Oh, yeah. Up next is Christine Newman Ortiz, the Executive Director of Voces de la Frontera Action, a nationally renowned immigrant rights organization from Milwaukee.
Christine Newman Ortiz, Executive Director of Voces de la Frontera Action, CHRISTINEUMANN-ORTIZ, pronouns she, ella. 4 years ago, Voces de la Frontera Action built a Latine and youth voter immigrant network that was critical in Wisconsin in defeating Trump's fascist administration. And we are committed to do that again as part of a broader movement to block the threat of a second-term Trump administration, more empowered and ready to implement mass and strip away decades of social progress, including our very right to organize. But we stand here with all of you today to deliver a message to the Democratic Party that our commitment to defeating fascism does not mean that we do not make demands on the Democratic Party. We have waited too long for the promise of immigration reform for 11 million essential workers and their families who worked in the pandemic, yet are not treated as the heroes they are. We call on Harris and Walz to deliver on immigration reform in the first 100 days of the new administration. We stand in solidarity with Palestinians for an end to the funding of a genocidal war in Gaza. As immigrants, we too understand the role of the U.S. government in supporting dictatorships abroad to serve corporate interests, whether that is backing Israel to serve oil companies in the Middle East or banana companies in Guatemala in the 1980s that conducted their own genocidal war against the largely indigenous people, or economic policies like NAFTA that force people to migrate. We know that an independent movement from below that is in solidarity with each other is the only way we can build enough power to defeat fascism and advance a real democracy. Immigrant rights is women's rights. Immigrant rights is LGBTQ rights. Immigrant rights is workers' rights. Immigrant rights is human rights. Si se puede.
Si se puede. Thank you, Christine. Next up is Victoria Hinckley. Victoria is a student organizer with Tampa-based Students for a Democratic Society and was recently expelled from the University of South Florida for being a leader in the Solidarity Encampment on campus.
Hello everyone, as Bayani said, my name is Victoria Hinckley. That's first name Victoria, V-I-C-T-O-R-I-A. Last name Hinckley, H-I-N-C-K-L-E-Y. I'm 22 years old. I'm a student organizer with Students for a Democratic Society, and I go to school at the University of South Florida in Tampa. Students for a Democratic Society is really proud to be a part of the coalition to march on the RNC and to be leading in the student contingent here today. And we're marching on the DNC to demand an end to all US aid to Israel, to demand that the genocide in Palestine be ended now. We've seen continually the Biden-Harris administration support genocide abroad by funding the IOF, by funding the Zionist State of Israel, by continually sending arms and billions and billions of dollars to fund this genocide. And we've seen them also attack the student movement for Palestine here at home with passing bills against protesting, calling students terrorists, saying that we deserve to get deported, encouraging violence to be used against us by the police on our own campus. And this past spring we saw a historic nationwide student movement for Palestine. We saw students build encampments at their campuses, and this was a really historic student movement, a very historic anti-war movement supporting the liberation for Palestine, supporting demanding divestment from their universities who are complicit in this genocide. And we saw students come out in thousands to support this encampment, so we know that students across the country stand with Palestine. They're demanding an end to the genocide and an end to US aid to Israel. And we also saw a very violent response from university administrations and from police. We saw people be tear gassed at my own school in Tampa at our encampment. We were tear gassed and we had rubber bullets shot at us. Shame. Shame. So we saw this horrible violent response, but despite that, students still came out in droves. They didn't care if they were going to get tear gassed, they didn't care if they were going to get arrested. They were there to stand with Palestine, they were proud to stand with the resistance. And after that encampment movement, we saw horrible political repression take place in the forms of attacks on the student movement. In my own chapter, we had my fellow SDSer Joseph Chari was suspended for leading the encampment that day at the University of South Florida, and he's an international student, so they're now threatening him with deportation. Shame. Shame. And I myself was expelled from the University of South Florida for standing with Palestine, for being active in my encampment movement, even though I was a single assignment away from graduating, from walking across the stage in my graduation ceremony. Shame. Shame. And Students for a Democratic Society has launched our national campaign to demand that our universities not get away with punishing students for being pro-Palestine. We're going to be calling in August 26th to August 30th to demand that students not be expelled, and demanding that our movements stop being attacked. And come fall, we're going to hit the ground running, ready to defend student protests for Palestine and continuing to demand divestment. We refuse to let our universities get away with funding a genocide in our name. Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest.
Disclose, divest.
Thank you.
We will not stop, we will not rest. Thank you, Victoria. Next up is Sydney Loving. Sydney is a Dallas, Texas-based organizer and co-chair of the National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, who has been active in the Black Liberation Movement since 2015.
Yeah. Woo! Hi everybody, Sydney Loving. Spell my name right? Okay, S-Y-D-N-E-Y.
You don't have to crowd.
Sorry. S-Y-D-N-E-Y-L-O-V-I-N-G. So I had a lot of coffee and I don't have a prepared thing. So if I ramble around, I know y'all can edit it and fix all that. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm representing the National Alliance Against Racist Political Repression. You know, our work is deeply rooted in the Black Liberation Movement. And there's a reason why the Black Liberation Movement has a very long history of solidarity with Palestine. There's a reason why everybody from Nelson Mandela to the Black Panthers is talking about Palestine. And it's not about, you know, charity or anything like that. It's that we have a very deep understanding of how our struggles are connected. You know, and it's very clear. It's not hidden. The same people that are getting rich off of genocide in Gaza are the same people that are investing in pressure of Black people in this country.
Yes, yeah.
And as you know, our movements against U.S. imperialism get stronger here or abroad. You know, it strengthens each other. The solidarity strengthens each other, and we saw that too. You know, there's a reason why in the Palestinian liberation movement they recognized that, and in 2020 the Palestinian movement was marching for it as well. We saw that in Dallas. So we understand that our struggles are connected, our liberation is connected. So we're in full solidarity with the Palestinian resistance. We're not going to give that up or qualify that, and our freedom is connected. So yeah.
Thank you, Sydney. I'm honored to introduce this next speaker, who's a very, very close friend of mine. And we share a political analysis, a political trajectory, and she represents a really important community in Chicago as well, and in the country. In-hae Choi is the former executive director of the Hana Center, a Korean organization that combines social services and community organizing to promote social change. She's also a nationally known immigrant rights and Asian community leader. Please welcome In-hae Choi.
Good morning. So my name is In-hae Choi, I-N-H-E-C-H-O-I. And I'm with the Hana Center, as Hatem said. We are a community-based organization that works with Korean, Asian American, and multi-ethnic immigrant communities to rebuild power toward advancing human rights. I'm also here with the National Korean American Service and Education Consortium, NAKASEC Action Fund, where we try to improve the policies that improve human rights, immigrant rights, and civil rights. And so we're here today with two purposes. The first is, as you've been hearing, to demand that the U.S. government stop using our tax dollars to fund Israel to continue committing atrocities and killing innocent lives in Gaza. Our people come from countries that have been experiencing brutality and tragedy of colonization, war, and U.S. military occupation. In fact, U.S. troops are still in Korea and in the Philippines, and they must withdraw to make sure that there's peace in those lands. And so what's happening in Palestine feels personal to us. And so we stand with millions of other Americans who are not here today, but all over the country today and this week, to say that we demand that our own government, that actually has the power to stop genocide in Gaza, actually stop it immediately. We're also here to hold our legislators and the Biden administration accountable by demanding that they do their job and not play politics with immigration. They make promises, as we all know, and once they get in, they don't do their job. And in fact, they make it worse. We all know that. It's broken record, but it keeps happening, right? So, in fact, we all know that this country cannot function without immigrants. A recent study was released by the Taxation and Immigration Policy that found that in just 1 year, undocumented immigrants contributed 96.7, almost $100 billion in taxes to the federal, state, and local governments.
America cannot afford to lose immigrants. Politicians know very well about taxation and representation. So to them, we're here to say that we're not paying you to be all fancy and boastful and joyous among yourselves inside the convention or outside the convention. We are here to say, do your job, make policies that protect and support immigrants and all other marginalized communities as well. And finally, we really urge the city of Chicago to grant us a 2.1-mile route that we need. Let's make different history. That in 2024, the city of Chicago supported and facilitated a safe and peaceful demonstration at DNC. There's still time. Thank you.
Thank you, Inge. 2.4 miles. The last speaker before I take questions is Omar Yunus. He's a co-founder and leader of Jasur, an Arab and Palestinian youth organizing project in the southwest suburbs. And Jasur has played a lead role in all of the local-led protests since October in Chicago. Please welcome Omar Yunus.
Assalamu alaikum, guys. Omar Yunus, O-M-A-R Y-O-U-N-E-S, co-founder of Jasur, that's spelled J-I-S-O-O-R. I also had a lot of coffee, so bear with me. Last week, the Biden-Harris administration approved another $20 billion in weapons sales to Israel, a state guilty of killing over 40,000 Palestinian civilians. During this genocide, Israel destroyed more than 70% of the homes in Gaza, many of which my family lived in, and displaced more than 1.9 million Palestinians. This decision continues a troubling legacy of U.S. military aid that has long supported Israel's brutal subjugation of Palestinians, a legacy maintained by both Democrats and Republicans. In 2016, President Obama and then Vice President Biden authorized a decade-long $38 billion in military aid to Israel, the largest in U.S.-Israeli history. This funding armed Israeli soldiers who harass, kidnap, and violently displace Palestinians from their homes in Gaza and the West Bank. It also directly supplied Israel with the weaponry that killed and injured thousands of residents before October 7th. The Democratic National Convention has received $75 million in funding to beef up their security in preparation for this march of unified people. The city of Chicago has prioritized spending money to beautify McCormick Place rather than spending it to clear the food deserts in their Southside communities, to help house the unhoused population, to help take care of their migrant communities. Chicago displaced and evicted vulnerable communities in Hyde Park to give free housing to out-of-state police officers coming to keep the peace while the march is happening. The Democratic Party may present a new face, but its support for Israel remains unchanged. Kamala Harris's candidacy, while historic, does not alter the party's ongoing support for the Israeli genocide. At her rallies, she has attempted to silence pro-Palestinian protesters, and she, just like Biden, continues to be unwilling to listen to the outcries of the Palestinian people. But she's not the problem. The party is what keeps this agenda moving, and the people are here to make their voice heard. My community wakes up to photos and videos of our family and friends decapitated, burned to death, killed by 2,000-pound Israeli bombs dropped on their homes. This pain is what drives the people of Chicago out into the streets in the thousands every single weekend. Residents of Pilsen and Bridgeport and other wards came out in the hundreds to lobby their aldermen to get them to vote for the ceasefire resolution. Hundreds of students came out, spending days at their university campuses. People of all backgrounds, Black, Latino, and every single color you can imagine, out there to support the Palestinian people and demand better for our people. Our message is clear. End U.S. aid to Israel now. Stop financing the oppression of Palestinians. And this demand alone can decisively save 2 million Palestinians still trapped in Gaza. That's why we're here today.
Thank you very much. Before I take questions, I just want to lay out the week one more time for everybody. So at an hour and a half or so, until 12 noon, we will have our program here. We'll start our program here. It'll probably go till about 1:30, a little bit beyond 1:30, and then we will set up and begin the march from Washington Boulevard right there until we get within sight and sound of the United Center. Once we get back from the march, actually, I'm sorry, then we will stop. Folks may or may not know there's a park right near the United Center right there on Washington Boulevard as well, called Park 578. We'll have a short program there as well, and then we'll loop back around. We'll come down Lake Street, and we'll get back into the park, and we'll wrap it up from there. So that that could be around 4, potentially between 4 and 5. That's what the day looks like. On Thursday, 5 p.m. program here as well, and a march also to the 578, and then back to the park. And on Wednesday, the Coalition of March on the DNC is supporting the local Palestinian Coalition for Justice in Palestine, which is starting here at 3:30. I don't know yet the route for that march, but they will start here at 3:30 on Wednesday, and we will all be here with them as well. USPCN is a leading member of both coalitions.
One media note is there is a live stream, and if your team needs footage, you can use the footage from the live stream. Give credit to the Coalition to March on the DNC. It's on the website.
Thank you, Fan. So yeah, now I'll take questions.
The route.
Been organizing this for a while. Was there any more people here you think that Biden was still nominating? Has that changed the crowd size that you're getting? Rather not no longer be in it?
Yeah, I mean, we won't know that for a couple more hours, but we still think there's going to be thousands of people here, maybe tens of thousands throughout the week. We made it very clear from the very beginning that there is no difference. Kamala Harris is part of this administration, and not only is she part of the administration, she is part and parcel of and in lockstep with 75 years of U.S. policies in relation to Palestine and the Arab world. So, we said from day one, nothing's changing. All full steam ahead for our coalition and our mobilization.
Kamala Harris named the liaison
in the Middle East and reportedly near a finish line. Will that change the message of the coalition march on the DNC if that is reached? Do you see that as a positive step forward or a win, perhaps?
So I think we have to correct ourselves and maybe, do a little bit more research about what's reportedly close to a ceasefire. The Palestinian Unified Resistance has been saying for weeks that we're not close to a ceasefire because Netanyahu is continuing to move the goalposts. Every time, July 2nd, the Palestinian Unified Resistance was ready to make the deal of the exchange of Palestinian political prisoners for Israeli detainees, the deal that Israel would have to withdraw from the entirety of Gaza, the deal that the genocide would end and Israel would leave all of the crossings and all of the borders. And Netanyahu refuses to do that. And so although it's reported by U.S. press and by some European press that we're reportedly close, we're actually not. You should listen to the people who are in the negotiations. You should listen to the Unified Palestinian Resistance because they're saying they're not going to take a deal that Netanyahu believes that he can change every single day and every single week. So that is a sort of a non-starter until the Israelis negotiate in good faith, agree to withdraw, agree to a permanent ceasefire. Netanyahu does not want to agree to a permanent ceasefire. He wants to agree to the type of ceasefire that Killer Kamala is asking about or talking about. One that's temporary, the one that offers a few weeks of respite before the Israeli bombs, U.S. bombs, start dropping on people's heads again in Gaza. That's unacceptable. The Palestinian resistance is not close to a ceasefire, and so it doesn't matter what U.S. press and Western European press is reporting.
Just an update on the protest route, because y'all have been negotiating with the city. Are we still with the, 1.1 mile route turning at Maypole and Hermitage?
So again, you know, everybody knows what happened in the last week. 3 days ago, they tried to say we couldn't have stage and sound, and we fought very hard for 48 hours, and we got them to change their minds and to allow us to put it up. That was community organizing at its best. That was the community organizing of Christine's organization and Inhe's organization and Students for a Democratic Society and SJPs and all of the 290 or so organizations that make up the Coalition of March on the DNC. And that's what we know. That's what we do. And we're not going to stop until we step off the stage to get that 2.4 miles that we need to accommodate the protesters here today.
Do you have an opinion on the fact that Kamala Harris named a liaison, a special person to liaise with the Arab American community, and about the uncommitted delegates that will be in the United States? What would you like to see?
Yeah, there's always a liaison with the Arab community, just like there's a liaison with the black community and a liaison with the immigrant community and a liaison with all the other communities. Have those liaisons truly been able to make any substantial, legitimate changes for people on the ground, working people, marginalized people on the ground? At least in the Arab context, they haven't. I don't know that much about this person. I would have to learn more before I would be able to give a statement like that. The uncommitted folks are people that we know. That movement of uncommitted and uninstructed in Wisconsin, uncommitted in Minnesota, and in Michigan, in Illinois, we don't have an uncommitted choice. So the community here decided to do a campaign to write in Gaza instead of voting for Biden in the primaries. 700,000 people altogether who traditionally and historically vote Democrat did not vote for Biden in the primaries in that movement. So that is a substantial movement. I appreciate the fact that they're in there. They think that they could maybe make a change from within. That might not be the opinion of myself or a number of organizations that are part of this coalition, but you know, inside-outside strategy is not bad.
Has your organization taken...
Mayor Johnson has obviously now said that he thinks that what is happening in Gaza is genocidal. Do you think that that is significant in any way of him finally staying in? Do you think it would make a difference in maybe the city allowing another row?
I don't know about that, but what I do know is that he has been in the front of this issue from day one. Let's acknowledge when we have a different day in the city of Chicago. I told Inhe and I've told other people, I would have been much more happy in the last 2 months if Rahm Emanuel was mayor, because we would have went on an absolute attack against him personally as a Zionist supporter of Israel. But we're in a city in which we have a mayor who says, I am from the movement. A mayor who says, I am an organizer. A mayor who says that people have the right to protest and express their First Amendment rights. We all respect that. We also have a mayor that we sat in the city council with who broke the tie for the ceasefire resolution in Chicago, the largest city in the country, to pass that resolution. It was the mayor who broke the tie. And now he goes and speaks to Mother Jones and he calls it a genocide. And he says to the world, we can't be ashamed to call it what it is. That is a powerful, powerful moment right now for the mayor of one of the biggest, strongest cities in the country, a Democratic Party stronghold as well, who says that. That's powerful. It means a lot.
Just back to the rally route really quick, or the march route really quickly. What route are you encouraging people to walk today? Because I know you said yesterday that the number of people will dictate, kind of where they go, but where are you going to lead this group?
We don't have to encourage anyone to go anywhere. We're organizing this march. We have lead banners, we have lead marchers, we have lead marshals. We will lead the march on the route that is agreed upon. So again, it's 1.1 miles right now, but we're not stopping until, we get the route that we want.
Have your organization...
With who? No. This coalition is not. Kamala didn't call me.
Have your organizations taken any steps to ensure there's no instances of anti-Semitism within the march or within any of these protests or whatnot this week?
So, I'm glad you asked that question, because now I can talk about the ADL for a little bit. The Anti-Defamation League and the Jewish United Fund, two extremely Zionist organizations. ADL, and look up your research by our colleagues from JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace, that is a partner in this coalition, and the organization that they started to expose ADL as a racist, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim, anti-black organization that it is. They came out, they did a press conference a couple weeks ago, and they said that the people of Chicago should be concerned about this protest. That they criminalized protesters, they criminalized Palestinians, they criminalized the Coalition to March on the DNC by name, they criminalized USPCN by name. And they made accusations that are weaponizing anti-Semitism to disguise their disgusting line as supporters of war and supporters of genocide. They trying to disguise it by weaponizing anti-Semitism. We've said from day one, USPCN and the Palestinian community, that there is real anti-Semitism in this world. But we refuse to allow the Zionists in this country to criminalize our movement for self-determination and independence and to stop the genocide by calling it anti-Semitism just because we're protesting to stop that criminal Zionist terrorist state.
You mentioned in the past that you were bringing...
You got to speak up a little bit, please.
Sorry, you mentioned in the past that there were buses of protesters coming in from throughout the Midwest. Now that we're here on the day, any idea how many buses and where they're coming from?
Yeah, I actually don't know if they're all here yet, but we do know that there are 2 from Michigan, there are 2 from Wisconsin, there are 2 from Minneapolis. Woo! There are buses coming from Cleveland and Youngstown. I believe, and we heard that there's a bus from New Mexico. I'm not on the outreach committee. The media committee was already too much work for me, so I don't know exactly if there are other buses coming, but definitely those that I just mentioned. Wait, you asked already. Go ahead. We don't, our coalition doesn't take a position on that. We don't take a position telling people who they should vote for, whether they should vote, whether they shouldn't vote. So that is not the purview of our coalition. In fact, the reason why we're out here and not, trying to, get into the convention and talk to delegates and all that there is because, we don't think that there is a lesser of 2 evils when it comes to Palestine and the Arab world. The Republicans and the Democrats are in lockstep.
For a second, because they are towing cars
Can you cut them, please? Yeah.
If you march on Warren, which is on
Hold on. Anybody else?
Can you just repeat your name?
Yeah, I will. I'll give the... Yeah, you go ahead. You can ask.
Is there any concern that this can end up benefiting from in November and end up in an administration that is even harsher with the Palestinian folks?
Yeah. I don't know how much more harsh it can get than what Omar has described, that his family in Gaza have had to deal with. I don't know how many more people could possibly be killed or injured or displaced by a different party. We will not take any responsibility if Kamala Harris loses the election. The responsibility is on Genocide Joe and on Kamala Harris and on that Democratic Party. They lose this election to Trump, they are responsible only. Their policies around Palestine are responsible only and nobody else.
So the U.S. government is complicit, as you say, in supporting Israeli genocide with tax dollars, $10 billion additional. Do you think that these government officials should themselves be prosecuted for war crimes in support of genocide?
Yes, of course. I think a lot of government officials in Israel and the United States should be prosecuted for war crimes, yes. Hatem Abudayah, Hatemabudayah, for those that might have missed it. Yeah.
What message do you have for those undocumented immigrants or other migrants in Chicago that have been affected by the arrival of the DNC?
Christine and Inhe?
I would appreciate you repeat your names slowly.
Both of you. This is a question for you all.
Yeah.
Go ahead, repeat it.
What message do you have for migrants or undocumented immigrants in Chicago that have been affected by the arrival of the DNC? No, we just say that.
To the mics, to the mics.
No, it's really about this is a moment where all the legislators and politicians are going to come and really talk about immigration again in a way that they're just going to use us as a tool and a talking point without doing anything. So it's a moment to really say, don't be fooled by that, but it really is about holding them accountable and keep pushing, and that we need a pathway to citizenship for all $11 million million undocumented people, because we just heard that the report. The immigrants are really funding so much of what's happening in this country, so we really need that.
Yeah, we have a delegation marching today, and undocumented immigrants have been at the forefront of the labor movement and the democracy movement. We've seen the Day Without Latinos strikes. People are very courageous. They're essential to our economy, and it's important to be here. And they're here because people are not going to be, forced into the shadows, and we want to come out of the shadows. And we also want to stand in solidarity with others who are oppressed. So people are courageous, and that courage should be recognized by those who deserve to give them immigration reform.
Back.
Yeah. This movement is largely been led by college students and American youth. What does that mean for youth political engagement, both now and going forward?
Yeah. I'll pass that to the youth. Ormond, you want to take this question?
I think the youth are realizing through the access of social media and the democratization of information that the issues plaguing their world and plaguing their existence are a lot deeper than the surface level that youth in previous generations were brought up to see. And youth are progressively more aware of what's happening around them and the core issues that plague their lives. So this marks a pivotal moment in youth involvement and potential for that involvement in the reciprocating systems outward. Chicago CPS school students organized a large walkout across all CPS schools just a few months ago in demonstration in solidarity with the Palestinian community. And these are high schools. And this extrapolates upwards and downwards across elementary and high school equally. So,
go ahead.
My name is Jack Paulson. I'm an independent journalist. I broke a story in The Guardian this weekend that the longtime general counsel of the DNC, Joseph Sandler, had secretly been contracting with the Israeli government to help their propaganda program in the U.S. Avoid foreign agent registration in the United States from 2018 to 2022. I was wondering if you had any comment on the DNC working hand in glove with the Israeli government.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the report, but I'm not surprised at all. None of us should be, right? I mean, You know, they've got the President of the United States who stands up and parrots all of their propaganda and talking points from the Israeli government and the Israeli military on a daily basis. You got two circus clowns who are the spokespeople for Blinken who do the same thing. Every single day, they defend Israel as if they were defending the United States. Every single day, they parrot the talking points of the Israeli military and the government almost verbatim. So it's no surprise. Go ahead.
Russell Gobler with Geodissidents. A lot of progressives, particularly commentators who have been speaking out about the Palestinian cause, as soon as Kamala picked Waltz, were so impressed with his free lunch program that they've decided to support Kamala after saying that they wouldn't. Do you feel they're selling out the Palestinian cause for a free lunch?
Yeah, listen, I mean, you know, everybody has the right to organize the way they see fit. You know, we believe that people power in the streets is the way to make change. We have the history of the Black Liberation Movement that is the leadership of the Palestine Liberation Movement. Truly, truly, we have learned from mentors and organizers decades and decades of their struggles and their victories in this country. And so that's what we emulate. Those who want to believe that maybe voting is the way to make change, I would argue that there are 75 years of U.S. presidents who have done absolutely nothing for the people of Palestine and have in fact absolutely devastated the Arab world, because the Republicans and Democrats are in lockstep when it comes to foreign policy, especially in relation to the Arab world. So we believe in the power of the people. We believe we believe in the power of the people in the streets. That's how we have won our demands in the past, and that's how we think we're going to win our demands in the future. Any other questions? All right, y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.